Today's chat is brought to you by, well, all of your support. Through the patronage you provide the Focus Fire chat team through Podbean's crowdfunding, we are able to provide you with the weekly podcast as well as the game streams, website, and other aspects of Focus Fire chat. If you have any interest in becoming a patron of the FFC, please be sure to visit our website and click on the support link. Even a single dollar helps, and for those of you who are already patrons, thank you again for your generosity.
Welcome to Focus Fire Chat. Explore together.
Welcome back for episode 127 of Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on March 30th, 2018, over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. Big shout out to our live chat here. Thank you so much for joining us for another evening. This is your host, Blue Crew 86. Alongside me, we have the man who has been said to have a voice of the flower, an individual who goes by many different names, Justin Sane 0516. Justin, what guys do you have on for us tonight?
I'm not proud of this one.
This one's a stretch.
I'm pretty sure this one might be bordering on that PG-13 line pretty hard.
It's Asher. I hardly know her. But I couldn't, because Asher's already a name, and then yeah, the rest is history. So
dun, dun, dun.
Robot arms.
Robot arms.
Oh my.
Well, alongside us, we also have our master of social media, the one and only Green-Eyed Music Lover. Green, I hope you're doing well. Are you looking forward to tonight's chat?
I am. I even had my armor set on because I worked for like 4 hours yesterday to get the armor set because I totally didn't forget about Io as a planet and collecting tokens for it. And so, yeah, I'm ready. I got my Asher set on.
You know, in hindsight, Asher thanks you for staying away.
You know, I mean, as crotchety as he seems to be and how grumpy he is most of the time, I don't doubt that statement one bit.
At least you knew where I was going with it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can also hear we have our grizzly bearded cultivator of Spinfoil himself, Beard Grizzly. Beard, how are you doing tonight?
Well, I think my title should officially be Dropper of Smartphones, because that's what I just got done.
Oh,
Nice.
no.
Yeah, I'm super good at that. I'm super klutzy. Have I ever mentioned that? I'm like super klutzy.
It's like you only have one arm.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna say that's also fair. I mean, there's no thumb on the right hand, and that's kind of my dominant hand. Doesn't help anything. Do you see how it is for typing? It doesn't go well. Anyway, so
That's why it takes so long between videos, guys.
oh wow.
I love you.
You know, I could probably get more done if I wasn't on this podcast. Bye. No, I'm kidding.
No. Love you.
Oh, man. Well, before we jump into the community questions, I think you guys wanted to talk about a little bit about the events of this past week, which I will freely admit at the start of this episode, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. There's something called a video game or something that you are playing, and I have been stuck in an office. So I don't know which one.
The history of video games.
Let's talk
about that back on like.
Oh.
When did I do that? Like 2010 or something?
I don't know. I mean, like, I think we did a pretty good job with
videos.
I think we did a pretty good job with the Doom episode talking about the history of video games.
That's fair. Maybe we should just reference that. Maybe
reference that
you
one.
should go back and reference your own voice.
Oh my goodness. As long as we're not referencing Ready Player One and that the history of video games through that, we'll be good.
Well, that's more like the history of pop culture and movies more than it is just video games, which is
It had a lot of video game references in it.
It did, with the time machine sitting there for some odd reason. Oh, right, because they could, and who doesn't know that time machine at this point?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a time machine. It's a DeLorean.
Look, you.
Okay.
If I have to go all Doc Brown on you right now and be like, you know, yes, the stainless steel construction made time dispersal possible, then
Listen.
then we're gonna have a chat.
Where we're going, we don't need snark.
But
Well,
what was it? 1.4?
Yeah, 1.1.4. 1.1.4. Or as most people colloquially know it, the Go Fast update.
It is amazing.
Million.
Don't you mean
gigawatts?
Sonic speed? Yeah, I was going to say 1.21 gigawatts. That's where I thought you were going with that.
That's what I thought that was.
You know what, though? Okay, so 1 Fox, 2 Fox, 3 Fox put in chat, like, the Hunter Stay Put patch. I actually feel like the Hunters, I mean, yes, the Hunters didn't get a huge buff like Warlocks and Titans tend to, but I still feel faster than I did before.
But the important question is, can you kill yourself by running into a wall?
Not like Titans can.
Or Warlocks. Yeah. Have you seen the Dawnblade video?
Oh my god.
Where he's racing the guy with the sparrow. And he smacks into the wall. Yeah, it's hilarious.
There's another one where a Dawnblade actually goes from like the right side of the shoreline in EDZ, and he goes to the left side of the shoreline in EDZ in one super bar. It is ridiculous.
Wow.
It is ridiculous.
The amount of space that they can travel now is impressive, and PvP is absolutely terrifying. When you hear Dawnblade pop, it's like the new Tink Tink.
See, we don't need another one of those.
I don't know. I mean, it's deadly like Tink Tink, but there's still ways around it. Like, I'm quick enough to where I can get around a lot of things still. And that's something fair. Like, I can get around Nova Bombs now. And I don't know if they really gave Hunters that much of a bump, but I'm carrying a submachine gun. I'm actually using that, and that feels good. Auto rifles feel good again. Hand cannons feel pretty good even. I don't feel like I have to carry Midas sidearm anymore, which is nice.
Well, and if I have to be honest, from my side of everything, from playing the Hunter, the bit that I did on PlayStation, I felt that compared to Titan and Warlock, the Hunter actually had the best of the movement speeds to begin with. Now they have to get them somehow.
What was that? Hang on, say that again.
What for Crucible, they had the best of it. We'll put it that way.
Were you hunting for the right answer?
I think he was. This is what happens when you need Keen Scout and you can't put any other good perks on.
Wow.
Yeah, but have you used Keen Scout? You don't need any other perks once you have that thing on.
Look, I might have used Keen Scout, but I at least start to learn what a farming run is. All right, I actually memorize where positions are. Maybe you don't want to train your memory this way,
or you just want to use the ghost like they intended.
Oh, I was born in the darkness.
Wait a minute. What are these ghosts you talk about? I thought they were just Eververse triggers.
Don't mention ghosts around Beard. He gets sensitive about that.
Don't tell me about ghosts. Don't you dare. Don't you dare.
You merely adopted it.
Can we talk about the other newsworthy thing that happened this week?
Oh, you mean the outrage that happened?
Oh my god!
I'm okay with calling it an outrage. And the thing is it's not Bungie's fault in any way, shape, or form. It's literally the limitations. It's the limitations of the way the bot works. Because what we're talking about is that on Tuesday, right before the turnover of the new week, the bot called
Charlemagne.
What it's called? Charlemagne.
Mm-hmm.
Which uses user data once they're signed up to track faction wars, faction event type stuff, and all sorts of other things. Said that Future War Cult ended up winning the faction event this time for the first time.
Now, there's an addendum to this. Mm-hmm. We were 10,000 points listed, at least in Charlemagne, ahead of all the other factions. The next closest one was Dio, at 5,000 of a difference. New Monarchy was 10,000 points behind.
Right.
Now continue your story, Green.
So, with that being said, let me also say this. I was super happy about Future War Cult winning because I want the faction event to be kind of a spread across the 3 different factions. I don't want one faction to dominate every time because that's not fun. Also, New Monarchy, I mean, it's just, there's such poison that ends up coming out within the faction event because
Space
of some
Hitlers.
Yeah, I've been called a communist way more times online than I'd like to say, and it's not fun. I mean,
No,
I don't like.
there's a magic number of times you can be called a communist online, and I think you've reached that.
Once you
that
get called it
critical mass.
once, you've reached it. Anyway,
Is it once? Is it one?
yes. Oh my
Okay.
god.
It's one.
Anyway,
Number of
but,
times you can be called a communist, but yeah.
I ended up tweeting out congratulations for Future War Cult because Charlemagne had said that they had won by so many points. Well, the problem with Charlemagne is dictated to only track the people that have signed up for it. So it doesn't have the entire player base. It has a good chunk of player base, but it doesn't have the entire player base. So it can be wrong. Bungie eventually tweeted out about an hour later that New Monarchy ended up winning, which is not cool.
Revisionist history.
Well, it's not necessarily revisionist
Red
history.
cons.
It's just it's slightly
Era. Fake news.
You too. Can I just say I'm trying so hard to be nice to you Future War Cult people, and you are not making it easy. You are not making it easy for me.
I just feel like this is a Pirates of the Caribbean moment where
oh my god,
you know, the one pirate looks at the other, and goes, "I'm telling the story." There's your
Pretty
Disney
much.
reference. Have fun.
Yeah, I guess it is technically Disney right there.
Pirates of the Caribbean was born from a ride within Disney World.
I know.
Come on.
I've been on it.
I'm just letting you know it's Disney.
It's just not a Disney princess reference, which tends to be Justin's go-to. But anyway, I digress.
Well, fine.
I
Jasmine looks at
digress.
Aladdin and said, "Shut up."
Pretty much. Long story made short, New Monarchy did winning on the full player base. This week of Bungie actually put out a picture saying the breakdown of it, which kind of sucks because it's still fairly close within the grand scheme of things. Future War Cult ended up being second, and Dead Orbit ended up taking third place in this one. I'd like to say I'm glad they're pulling the event out for a while to revamp it, because right now I think it's broken and it's dividing the community even more than it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a productive event at this point, and I'm glad that they're taking it out, and I'm glad that I'm so tired of seeing people just rag on each other's factions instead of celebrating another team's win.
No.
Well, go ahead,
No.
Joseph. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, all right. Yeah, that was like the biggest thing that kind of really gets to me about Faction Rally 2, because when it was starting again, I had actually posted all 3 of my faction videos in a playlist, and then it ended with the talk on the lore tab for Peace Walkers, or Peacekeepers, not Peace Walkers. Get Metal Gear flashbacks here. All of a sudden, Konami claims this for copyright infringement. But the Peacekeepers were the one thing that I was like really excited for, because they, of course, ended up changing that to like, yes, the faction wars, not the faction rallies. We completely screwed that up, as we talked about last time. But I was excited to see what they were going to do because of the wording, and the other thing. I was excited that it was going to be something that like actually seemed to matter for the factions, and it doesn't feel like they put a lot of thought into it, like as time went by. And I'm definitely in agreement. I'm glad they're pulling it down, not for the sake that FWC lost again, just for the sake that I think it needs to be revamped, because there's something missing in this interim means of, well, why is it that New Monarchy has now won 3 times in a row? And why is it, even by a bot's signed up membership, that it's not even close to like numbers between each other? 5,000 is, at least to me, if they're going by like packages turned in, that's a fairly substantial number, like a very substantial number. I don't know what they're going to be able to do with it, but that's a big for me. Anyway,
Well, I mean, you can't really massage the results. Like if at some point the results are the results.
mhm.
But I think this community doesn't really need any more points of contention or any more divisive elements. You know, I
Right.
mean,
It's
you can see like something like Faction Wars, like what that did for the world of hip hop in the 90s. Like it wasn't good. Good things didn't happen. So
Mhm.
I think that Faction Wars are a lot like Tupac and Biggie. Like it's just we just need to put it behind us. Figure out something more productive to do with our time. Can we all just build like a sandcastle?
that would
or
be
something.
nice.
It
That
would be nice.
super nice.
It would be nice.
I just, I don't like it, even as a new monarchy person, to have a situation where it's just a bowl over each and every time. That's not fun. That's not a good competitive game.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
I also don't like having people just be absolutely toxic about it, even within our own chat, even if they're not meaning to be.
Mhm.
Like, people don't mean to come across like it's like they're throwing shade in our chat even. It's just when you're somebody who gets kind of stomped on the whole time because your team has ended up being predominantly ahead of everybody, which sounds really awkward now that I'm saying it aloud. It's just not fun for anybody in any situation, period.
Not at all.
Anyway, should we get into the lore topic for this week? Since we kind of touched on the
I mean,
thing.
maybe at some point.
Well, I mean, you guys are
Maybe.
talking about building something constructively. You know, I think that's a good segue into the community feedback. So, hey, well, I mean, I'm trying. Okay, I'm trying. It's my attempt here.
I thought you were going to go with something like
It is working towards. It's working towards a convergence of types, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Or,
I was watching Thor: The Dark World earlier, so that makes sense.
Wow. I thought you were going to pull an Asher Mir there and be like, yes, we can just go and build another Vex arm. How's that sound?
Gosh.
Yes.
So, well, last week we asked the community if they thought that the Vex part of Asher would eventually spread throughout his body. And the responses are in, so I'm going to hand it over to Green for that feedback.
Which, can I say that midway through this week, because the new update dropped, we did get a lore card that kind of skewed the answer a little bit.
I mean, okay. To be fair, I'm trying really hard not to come across harshly on this one. How did we skew it?
Okay, yes, this is true, but it's like, before that card came out, there could have been questions brought up about the subject. Like, it could have been called into question a slight
But no,
bit.
because the card for the armor that you're wearing right now is already out. The entry to Gensym Knight is like, it answers the question.
It just made it. Okay. Anyway,
I'm giving you a sarcastic look right now.
I'm okay.
Okay.
You have a helmet on. I can't tell. And we're staring at each other on top of the rib cage. I really can't tell. Anyway, 65% said that yes, Asher's Vex arm, the technology will spread throughout his body. 15% said maybe, and 20% said no, that would cause a lore problem. There really weren't very many people who actually attached a whole lot of info to it as far as why they thought so, but the people who did were basically quoting either the armor that I'm wearing or the new card that came out, which I'm sure we're going to talk about a little bit later. So that was, most people pretty much knew that, yeah, Asher's going to have a continual problem with this, which is kind of cool that people are paying attention, at least that are within our own Twitter base. But I mean, if they were to not have it be a problem, that would be interesting too. I think that would almost be more interesting in some respects because they've laid out the groundwork for it to be a problem. But next week's question, I'm going to toss it on over to Beard since it's his topic and everything. And I really don't know much about Monster Hunter lore, but we're gonna do a Monster Hunter lore episode next week, guys.
Oh, don't worry. I'm going to learn you.
Oh, I'm excited. I downloaded the demo for the 2DS Monster Hunter Generations, I think is what it was.
Sure.
That's
the most recent that's out there,
Yeah.
the DS ones at least. I'm not sure if they have the 4U one up on
Not yet.
the Nintendo store at all yet or not, because that's the older one. You'd have to kind of hunt for that a little. Anyway,
is that the one with the jiggler helmet?
No, the one that has the Wiggler, not the Jiggler. The Wiggler is Monster Hunter World.
That was the helmet
new one?
that's the helmet that convinced Justin and I to give that game a second look.
the giant giraffe neck helmet.
Yeah.
Really?
The
That's
new-
what made you look at it, not the
Freaking
dragons.
hilarious!
Not the
because it
dragons.
doesn't- all right, look, Monster Hunter doesn't take itself seriously. That is one of the best things
love
about
that.
it. Okay, it's wonderful.
Plus
Like there's
the-
this side of seriousness, but there's that, and you're just like, oh, okay.
The
Plus the art is
best part is the
amazing.
cutscenes. The cutscenes
Right.
with the
Oh my
epic,
God.
the epic music, and the guy comes
Yeah,
running out
and
with the
his head's
Wiggler.
just like, wait.
So remind me post show to show you the new one,
Oh,
because
God.
one of the one of the monsters that they added for this one is called Yaku something. I can't remember what it's called exactly, but it's a raptor, and you legitimately wear this thing's head. And just the way that it moves around and looks at you, it's like it's judging you the entire time. It's hysterical. But remind me post show. I'll get you that the video for that. Next up, too, for the crossover is Devil May Cry, and I can't
I
wait
remember
for that.
you. Yeah, I remember you
But
saying
I think I mentioned that like 5 times now. Anyway,
He's a
the
little
actual
excited.
it's Monster Hunter. Like Destiny gets me excited. Monster Hunter was my first love. I'm just gonna say that right there. Yaku Kulu, yes, thank you. Derp. Thanks, Trigger. I'm the dummy today. So the question I have digs a little bit into some of the main lore and background for Monster Hunter, and it's one. Well, jeepers, phone. How about just shut up? It is one actually that I have been questioning now for several years, and it is how much does the ancient civilization, or how much is the ancient civilization to blame for strange species of monsters in today's Monster Hunter world? And it's not just necessarily saying the game; it's just saying the universe in general. Because technically, Monster Hunter is a post-apocalyptic world, and there are some hints and things that are kind of dropped to suggest that the ancient civilization did some stuff. So, if you feel up to it, the guys over at the Wiki do a fantastic job of summarizing things. You can get yourself a decent primer there to kind of see if there's anything else going on. So, yeah, just kind of going from that.
Nice.
Awesome. So
It
be
doesn't have to
sure.
be yes or no. Let us know with
Yeah, and I
comments.
know Green will probably post that over on Twitter, and then also I'm assuming in the Discord, right?
Yep. Discord comes on Friday night before we actually do the show. I do kind of a last minute thing for people who hadn't mentioned it on Twitter. I try to get out either Monday or Tuesday, so keep an eye out. And it's in the evening for me, sometime around 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time,
Cool.
generally.
All right, so be sure to sound off and let us know your thoughts. But speaking of getting back into tonight's topic, I know we're looking forward to diving into the discussion, so let's run through our standard intro notes, and then we'll get right into it. Our topic for this week's chat is going to be a look at Asher Mir. Before we jump into that, however, I do have a few housekeeping notes to run through. In our last chat, we discussed the faction wars. If you ever miss an episode and would like to catch up, please be sure to check out the new FocusFireChat.com for archives, articles, and links to the other aspects of Focus Fire Chat. If you don't mind, please rate and, if you can, review the show on iTunes, Podbeans, or whichever podcasting app you use to enjoy podcasts. Reviews in particular are extremely helpful as they help us show up on charts, and that helps others find the FFC community. To those of you who have already taken the time to leave us a review, thank you so much. As many of you already know, Focus Fire Chat is a cross-community gathering where the intent is to offer a week-long, in-depth view of a particular subject from within the lore of Destiny and other games. This chat begins every Tuesday morning and runs until the following Tuesday, with topics decided by the group via a poll that begins every Friday and ends on the Tuesday morning of the new chat. Every Friday, at around 10 p.m. Central, we get together to stream a recap of the previous week's chat for those who were unable to participate. Please be sure to also give some support to the other podcasts in the Guardian Radio Network, links of which can be found in our show notes or on our website. Podcasts that are focused on Destiny include Guardian Radio, the first and longest running Destiny podcast on the net, Guardian One, a Destiny group that is dedicated to Guardians helping Guardians and discussing current Destiny news and happenings, Ghost and Echoes, a collection of the Destiny audio grimoire from Destiny 1, and the network's newest edition, This Guardian Life, which is a podcast from the casual Guardian's perspective that highlights all Guardians, large and small. We do also have a non-Destiny focused podcast, The Enthusiast Life, which discusses a wide range of fun topics from within the entertainment world. Our next chat is actually going to be a discussion on the extra lore topic of March, Monster Hunter. Be sure to weigh in on the poll this weekend to let us know which topics you would like to discuss after that. Links to that poll can be found on either Twitter at FocusFireChat or within our Discord server. I asked Green to put together a high-level summary of tonight's topic, and this is what she had to say.
Prior to his prattling on in our ear on Io, Asher Mir's only reference in lore happens at the end of D1 during the Age of Triumph, where we see him on a sickbed.
Sickbed? I'd love to see what happens to your body when a stellar neurovirus interfaces with your cellular reproduction. The next time you prick your finger and see blood, just be happy that you're A, not Pajari, and B, not constantly wishing death on a trans-dimensional being. Brachion, the Genesis mind, is the one to blame for my arm. The first Guardian to bring me any part of him will be appreciated. But I digress. There are somewhat more pressing matters to attend to, like working through the new mysteries of light on Io to perfect the synthetic version I've created, learn more about the Pyramidion, and stop the Vex as much as possible. Though I may be slowly turning, there is still much to be done. So no, I was not on a sickbed. Get back to work, assistant. You're wasting precious time. The only commodity I have left.
Before we jump into the information and thoughts that the community had about Asher Mir, however, let's take a look at this week's Lost Lore. So this week, I think a good Lost Lore topic is one that I've seen asked ever since we learned about the Vex, really. What is Radiolarian? What is a Radiolaria? What is this Radiolarian fluid? Why do we keep talking about this silly little animal thing that we don't really understand? And the concept is, originally, until this most recent update actually, is that Vex were portrayed as Radiolarian fluid. And so Radiolaria is actually something that exists in reality. It's a single cell aquatic animal that usually has a spherical amoeba-like body that is surrounded in a very spiny skeleton of silica. Now, I'm going to come back to that in just a second. The other thing that Radiolaria do is they accumulate. So they kind of like clump together, and this can form a slimy deposit on seabeds. So basically, they're kind of like an algae. But to go back, their skeletons are made out of silica. And silica is actually really important because, and we kind of talked about this with the Vault of Glass episode way, way back when, because silica is basically this hard compound that occurs as quartz, and is pretty much a principal constituent of sandstone and other rocks similar to it. The interesting thing about silica is that silicon dioxide is another term for silica, and it's actually used in structural material, microelectronics, and as components in the food and pharmaceutical industries. The other random trivia about silica in regards to interesting connection to Vex is that apparently if you inhale finely divided crystalline silica, that is actually toxic and can lead to a huge number of health issues. It's
extremely
silicosis.
Yeah. It's not good. But the interesting thing about the whole thing about that being so interesting is that if you look at the vault of glass is really the easiest way to do this. If you look at the vault of glass, especially in Atheon's or Atheon's or whatever, Atheon's chamber, the throne chamber, basically, all those the throne, I guess as most people call it, that glass looking structure in the background, that is actually Radiolaria. Like that's actually a deposit of the silica structures that Radiolaria are made out of. And we kind of talked about that, like I said, we kind of talked about that during the Vault of Glass episode, but basically silica is a major component in microelectronics because it helps with the transference of information. Now, this entire understanding of Vex as Radiolaria kind of got questioned in this latest update. Beard, I'm assuming you know the one that I'm talking about. Do you want to talk about the new information that Ikora drops?
I'll be honest. I just read it.
Okay,
and it's great because it actually follows along with everything that I've been thinking. I have been the one that has said for a long time I've at least never felt that the Radiolaria were the Vex. I've at least assumed that it was a necessary component to what they needed, but it's not them. So I'm definitely kind of glad to once again be over here on the side of right. What? Huh?
Well, I mean,
sorry.
So the entry real quick that we're talking about was up in the update for 1.1.14, which is the Go Fast update that dropped this Tuesday. It is the universal wave function entry, and there's a lot of really good trivia facts in this one. But yeah, so go ahead, Beard.
Okay, you want me to do the reading?
Sorry. It's just messing me. I was gonna do that, Blue. Yes. Here you go. What does the text say?
So the flavor text at the top reads, I believed your presence at the genesis of the infinite forest would lead to a comprehensive understanding of the Vex. When will I learn that things are never so simple? Ikora. So, interesting to note, keep in mind the narration and the way that this goes. So, give it a second. The fluid itself is not the Vex. If their consciousness could be contained in such a state, it would have manifested in other states by now. Ikora looks up from the terminal. Perhaps Lakshmi's device is the key. Was I wrong to dismiss it? She chuckled. She does that a lot more lately. Probably. I was wrong about a lot of things. She paces, hands behind her back. If understanding their ability to manipulate simulations and, in doing so, appear to travel to different times is our goal, then she stops and turns to look at me? What do you think, Ophiuchus? I'm probably going to butcher this, but Ophiuchus. She hasn't spoken to me in 22,303 days. I haven't spoken to her in almost as long. I'm speechless. You're not just my ghost. We were friends once. I want you to know what you think. I try to maintain my composure. I don't think it works. I'm glad you asked. So, cool thing, of course, here is that we actually hear another ghost is named, which I think is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
2, we see the The device is once again mentioned. The FWC, of course, is going to point that out first. We also get a time period, though, which I'll actually figure out, or if somebody wants to figure the math quick.
61 years.
Just for how long was that? Sorry,
61 years.
61 years. Okay, so a typical what used to be a working human's lifespan is basically there for how long it's been for them to have chatted together.
Which is really crazy if you think about that.
Yeah, 61 years to basically be like, we had a friend break up, but you got to stay close to me because reasons.
Right. Can you explain the relationship between the two?
Between Ikora and Ophiuchus?
Mm-hmm.
Ophiuchus. They're the ghost. Ophiuchus is Ikora's ghost. And at that point, it's there was what was the other card? One of the other lore tabs that actually had talked about that it was her and Ophiuchus had talked to each other originally, and we see that before I guess she ends up going to the Vanguard or really getting stuck in with a lot of things. I'm really trying to remember what it was now.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Ikora's resolve. Yes.
Oh, it was the ship.
It's where the ghost is admonishing her for committing suicide because she's dabbling in Thanatonautics. Sounds like someone else that she was kind of close to.
Gee.
It shows Ikora before Ikora was the more cool-headed, even though she's not really super cool-headed at the moment, but this was back in her iconoclastic days. That is a weird word to get out.
Yes, it is.
Her shotgunning days.
Yeah. Well, that actually, there are more ways to take that phrase, actually, given the reading of this card, because I'm like, yeah, that shotgun might not have been used on enemies entirely all the time either.
She was in Crucible, but anyway.
No, I mean, I think she used it on herself, because she says and this takes place in the EDZ. This is again Ikora's resolve is the entry, and it's an argument between her. It's not really even an argument. It's kind of like. You can kind of tell that, but Ikora really is disrespectful to, well, now we know the name of the
authority.
Ghost. But she's argumentative about the role that guardians play and how, and the expectation of, the norm for how a guardian should act, because the ghost kind of is accusing her of he says you did it on purpose, died on purpose, I saw, and Ikora's just so what? You're gonna resurrect me basically, I don't care.
Right, and this is the lesson that she learns in the Red War, is that every life is precious.
Yes, because the realization of death's finality, which is an interesting concept with tonight's topic, to kind of bring it back into tonight's topic, because that's one of the main driving forces of Asher. And it's actually one of the reasons that Ikora kind of understands Asher more than really anyone else at the moment. And I think that's actually probably a source of her patience with him, especially now. Because, and we'll talk about that with Asher's one-way ticket. It kind of
straight dialogue.
Right. It kind of the one-way ticket kind of speaks to the underlying tension that Asher personally is going through with regards to his affliction. But real quick, the other note on Ophiuchus. Ophius, I'm just going to say Ophiuchus. Officious. It's Justin's favorite definition, because I can't even do it with a straight face because it literally means serpent bearer.
Yeah, you want me to read it?
Blue may have put this in our
That's rough.
just to Justin.
This is when I feel like we're just putting snake stuff in just to.
What? I would never do
Catch my
that. I
attention.
would never do that to you.
He literally put in parentheses, just interesting trivia. Afterwards.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yeah, we know why you put it there, Blue. It's okay.
No, I'd like to point out that this wasn't necessarily Blue's fault. Ophiuchus was named Ophiuchus by Bungie. Just saying.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Blue, Chad
we
Blue is a
actually know
monster.
who wrote that one. We know who wrote it, too. Did you know that?
Yeah. Yep, I saw him tweet that out, actually.
Yeah, Grant Roberts wrote these cards. He wrote the cards for the new update.
A man after my own name.
Is the name Ophiuchus, is it tied at all to the Ophidian?
Yeah, that's arguably so. Ophiuchus is a constellation. It is argued actually in astrological terms as the 13th Western constellation. So your astrological signs, you have 12. There's actually arguably 14, depending on the translations of the different thinkers that you are going by. And there was an individual who went by the name of Marcus Manilius in about 10 AD who wrote a collection, I guess, of poetry about astrological events called the Astronomica. And Ophiuchus that's actually the first time that we see it mentioned, and it is mentioned as a serpent bearer. And it's basically, quote, he renders the form of snakes innocuous to those born under him. They will receive snakes into the folds of their flowing robes and will exchange kisses with these poisonous monsters and suffer no harm.
Why?
So basically, but this is also where you start seeing the concept of the medicinal staff with the two snakes. You start seeing this idea of that. Well, and this is kind of where that starts. It's not directly tied to that, but this is where it kind of starts. A lot of people who are born supposedly under this sign, and this is really kind of later around 379. So 4th century, there was an astrologer who went by the name Anonymous, which is kind of, I love that, who kind of calls out the bright star Ophiuchus. I think it's Rosh Al-Haig.
No, it's Raz Al Ghul.
No.
Oh, God.
No, so
I knew you were going to.
I know. As soon as he started, I was like, no, he's not going there. He does go. It does look that. But so the association, the association between Ophiuchus and doctors, healers, or physicians, which is argued actually to be because of the association between snakes and then poisons and medicines being used. There's a lot of correlation there. As I always love saying, correlation does not necessarily mean causation. So there was a lot of components within that. I just blanked on what the staff is called, but the staff of the healer with the serpents twined around it. There's a lot of hermetic. Thank you. There's a lot of lore, like understanding of lore behind the design of that. But this is arguably one of the first kind of points to that. But you see a lot of this referencing to individuals who are born in this astrological sign as being immune to poisons, immune to the ill effects of not just snake poisons, but any poisons. So, Beard, Green, I don't know which one of you queued up
Green
first.
Actually, I'll go second.
Okay. As far as the history of poisons in medicine, the actual logistical history of it, the idea of poisons in medicine and snakes in medicine, the reason why the hermetic staff are two snakes is because most medicines back in the day are technically poisons if consumed too much. It's the idea of a certain amount of the poison taken in can help mitigate the ailment of whatever it is. So things like aspirin, for example. Aspirin is technically harvested from a bark of a tree. If you take too much of it, you can cause a lot of damage. if you take a little bit of it, it can help with so many different things. Pain, heart, lots of different things. I may have had a mother who was a nurse growing up, so there is my 2 cents on that aspect. Yes.
That aspect. It also
the Ophidian aspect.
That also ties into an early concept of medicine being the balancing of the 4 humors.
The vitreous humor is the most important.
Beard.
Yeah, I better save us, or we're going to keep going with that. Hey, anyway. So funny that you actually bring up the Ophidian aspect, because we just had a conversation about that not long ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And who that might belong to.
Mm-hmm.
If there's anything that might kind of back up a thinking or theory that I had. So I found it odd that Ikora went more towards the void. And we kind of see even in her early days that she seemed to favor the void more than she did like Sunsinger or something like that. She was obviously proficient. She still had the ability as a Stormcaller. She could do plenty of different weird things, if you will, but the biggest thing that always kind of caught me off guard was the fact that she focused so heavily on the void aspects of the Warlock. And this is only highly interesting because we know of somebody else that dabbled in the other subclasses of the Warlock, but also favored the void, and that was, of course, Toland. Now, I'm wondering if at some point or another, Ikora and Toland didn't have something, not necessarily saying going on, but they were like the 2 void serpents or something of that nature. And it's just, it's just, I always look like as always, I always look at the names and relationships as being something that is listed there by Bungie to be meaningful. And if you're going to tie Toland and snakes or something related to it pretty closely, I'm going to start to kind of look for those other imageries and kind of tie it back towards Toland. The question is, of course, if they knew each other, which we have no confirmation of as it is. We don't know if they were doing anything in the Crucible or this, that, the other thing. But just a thought, just kind of running with it.
Yeah, no, I like that connection too.
You trying to say that they had the aspic on their lips?
Please
that was
help.
such a thing.
Please-
that
please
was
help.
a thing, though. That was a thing.
That was a thing. It was a thing from the other thing. So
It might have been a thing, but you know what else is a thing? Asher's right arm. So I think we better start talking about
I think
that.
it was missing, though.
It's just in another dimension. It's in a dimension you can't see.
So let's save Beard from the discomfort and let's talk about Asher.
it's not a metaphorical leg, okay?
It's not a metaphor.
All this talk of snakes, that's the wrong one.
It's not a metaphor. So I guess the first thing to talk about with Asher is basically who is he? And to get
Look, you. I take some fair offense to that. Okay, not really, but just
no, you know it's true.
Mr. Grumpy McGruffers.
Yeah.
So who is Asher? Asher is obviously an Awoken. He's a warlock. We do, as kind of Green and Beard in the intro kind of mentioned, we first got introduced to Asher actually in Destiny 1 through the Grimoire. In the Age of Triumph, there was a ghost fragment, Eris Morn. It was an amazing card and has a lot of questions that are very interesting to go into. We do not know his ghost's name. We do know that it's identified as a unnamed female designate. We know that it is afflicted with Vex technology. And there is a really interesting note that Asher views himself as a failed scientist because he's unwilling to sacrifice her to try to understand what's happening to him. So there's actually an idle, I think it's an idle dialogue where he's lamenting the fact that he can't bring himself to kill his own ghost to take her apart to see what's going on within her. And then that also brings us to another really kind of interesting point with Asher, in that he is actually not even sure that his ghost can resurrect her. So that basically tells us that Asher has, since his incident, has never gone out in the field. He doesn't take chances. He's actually very kind of nervous or even afraid of death, which kind of how we were mentioning in the banter a little bit earlier is where Ikora and him are actually kind of more closely aligned than the other guardians necessarily, because Ikora also had I don't know if Ikora necessarily had an experience like Asher's, in regards to like the metaphysical challenge, but Ikora definitely understands what it's like to be forced to sit on the sidelines because of the fear of death. And so I'm gonna basically kind of let you guys kind of dissect that information if you want. The other big thing is he's obviously the vendor on Io, which is why Green loves him so much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's such a beautiful planet to get away to, and
it's really nice. It's good to just kind of sit there and watch Jupiter pass by.
It's got a nice smell of sulfur.
You know, in Ulantan's cave, I could sit there and stare forever, but as soon as I get outside, I have to look at Jupiter. Otherwise, I just see yellow and bones. And it's just like, guys.
But seriously, am I the only one who looks at this planet? It's like, this has got to smell overwhelmingly like sulfur.
I get it.
Yeah, I do too. It's just...
I mean, here's the question. Do you want to smell sulfur, or do you want to smell methane? I mean,
yeah, I guess that's true.
That's what you're left with for the
That's your choices. That's your choices.
It's not pleasant, to be honest.
Well, look. Do you want Io, or do you want a collapsing golden age?
I'd rather stand on Nessus personally, which is where I've spent most of my time.
Yeah, which is actually worse because you're probably breathing in Siva. So
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. It's pretty at least. It's a good destination. It's like
that's fine.
It's like Hawaii. There may be things that are dangerous there.
You mean Australia? You mean Australia is what you mean?
Well, yeah, that's yeah.
You're talking about it's pretty, but it's dangerous because everything is trying to kill you.
Just about.
Or you know, as we'll eventually get to with, you know, Banshee 44 down the line.
Oh gosh,
with this one line, and he's like, "Just stay here on Earth. It's safer that way." So just stay on Earth, okay? Just stay on Earth. It's all right, Green. We'll take care of everything else. You can hang out there. We know you like New Monarchy.
Yes.
We know you love the city.
Yes.
We know you got to work on that stuff. We get it.
Hey, I cannot help that Bungie made all of New Monarchy's goals in the EDZ, which, by the way, I'm really tired of running it, guys. I'm really tired of being there. Bungie, please. Can we just go to a different planet?
I love how of those three choices, Dead Orbit's the one that's like, all right, this time we're gonna go with this planet, and this time we're gonna go to this planet. And I'm like, I have to memorize all the farming runs instead of just the one farming run.
Oh God, I was so burned out on the EDZ. I have not gone to Earth except for this morning when I got the EDZ armor set because I was working on getting all the sets, but that's the last time I've been there for about 3 or 4 weeks. Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not bitter. It's fine.
I'm not bitter. There's not a hint of bitterness in my voice on this. But yeah, so Asher is the Vanguard contact on Io. And so that kind of brings us to the next kind of often asked question when it comes to Asher is basically, why is he, I'm just going to use PC language, why is he so grumpy? There's a different word that a lot of people use for Asher. So it's really kind of both a simple and a really complex answer. The simple answer is he's infected with a disease that is, quite frankly, very scary. Because for someone who is a scientist and a guardian who is used to being kind of not afraid of death, Asher is afflicted with a disease that no one knows anything about and has actually gotten to the point where he doesn't know if he can be resurrected. So the one benefit of being a guardian kind of has been taken away as far as he knows. And he doesn't understand it, which is, to a mind like Asher's, is probably one of the most, if not the most infuriating things that he can deal with, because he's a scientist. And if you've ever been around a scientist who can't understand something, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Like it's just
anybody who's a genius level.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That is very true. So basically, in a bit more complex way, his grumpiness, his shortness of patience or anything like that is really just his way of dealing with the fact that he's no longer able to approach things with the normal guardian's like disdain for danger. He doesn't know, like I mentioned before, he doesn't know if his ghost is able to revive him. So he's actually been forced to be benched by something that's not his choice.
Fair point, though. Asher was described as cantankerous and annoying before he was transformed.
This is true. I am not disputing that, but the fact is that like this is something that to someone who is, I mean, in my mind, Asher is a pretty strong-willed individual. I don't think anyone would dispute that. To have that personality have something literally forced upon them that is out of their control, and they don't get any say in it. Like they can whine, they can complain as much as they want, but it doesn't change the fact that they have no control over what is going on with their own body. You see this. I mean, I hesitantly make this connection because I don't mean to insult anyone, but you see this a lot with individuals who have diseases such as cancer, lifelong diseases, autoimmune diseases, things of that nature. You see a lot of bitterness, and that bitterness. Correct. It's
personality dependent a lot of the time.
Very true. That is a very, very good qualification. I will accept that. Yeah. Though usually I would argue also that there is a degree of bitterness that everyone goes through. It's just depending on the personality. It's how they respond to it, I think.
Yes.
Or how they take up the burden of that particular affliction. And Asher's response from a psychological level makes a lot of sense. But and that kind of brings us back to the connection with Ikora. And, again, for someone who was really kind of very apparently front and center for researching all the different aspects. I mean, like Beard had mentioned, he's making a synthetic version of light. I mean,
he's trying.
Well, he's attempting to, which is more than most could probably say, to be fair. And we kind of know that there is a component that has already been present, and which kind of explains why he's on Io. If you remember the campaign from Destiny 2 with what we were preventing Gaul from harvesting. But yeah, so it's the grumpiness is actually kind of a manifestation of frustration, of annoyance, of even fear a bit in Asher's case. And so, yeah, again, I'm going to kind of let you guys, because I know Beard probably has a few things to say.
Well, I'm going to say when it comes to the way that Asher otherwise is, he admits that he's also afraid, which is also something that we're not necessarily sure how Guardians effectively kind of deal with fear. We didn't have that up until, Destiny 2 campaign, where some of them ended up looking like we've got one life left to live at this point and ran away, or you actually had a Cade or Zavala situation where Zavala fits more in the middle, where he gathers people up and tries to protect them. Cade goes off and does his own thing like he's still a Guardian. And then you've got Ikora who's like, nope, I'm not doing a thing. And Asher is a very special case because even before all this stuff happened with the Red War, he was already in this position to say, I'm in no way, shape, or form going to test how this possibility of my death and being revived is going to work, because Blue had mentioned. And this fear of becoming a Vex completely is incredible. It's incredibly at the forefront of his mind. He's trying to not have it be. And from a psychological standpoint, you could even look at Asher and go, he is trying to keep himself busy so that he doesn't think about this stuff. And some of his research, of course, may come back to trying to handle or look into his situation, of course, but the large majority of it is him still trying to get to the bottom of the Vex, take out Brachion. Taking out Brachion was one of the first things on his mind when he got out to Io and actually had us out there. And these are elements that basically make up how Asher basically is. If we look at some of the new stuff, I know we'll probably get to it a little later and actually read it with the Silicon Neuroma.
Mm-hmm.
We see how that basically all takes place and what it was that they all had seen inside the Pyramidion. And it kind of bugs me in a way because I don't think it's exactly as he kind of described it, or at least from how I kind of recall it here in Silicon Neuroma, because in the Pyramidion he actually describes that they all kind of went their separate ways after the mission. Here it really does sound like the hunters are both completely dead.
Well, okay. As far as his fire team, the descriptions of his fire team, they don't sound close. It sounds almost like the way we queue in for a strike, when we queue in for a normal, a strike playlist, that you just meet up with random people and you go and do it. They don't seem like they're super tight-knit or anything like some of the other fire teams that we've seen in the Grimoire. It makes me wonder if they were put together as kind of a ragtag team instead of some of the more established teams that we've seen in Grimoire.
Well, it tells me everything I need to know. Don't do any runs with two hunters.
Hey. Some of us, pointing to myself, are really good about reviving any of the warlocks that die continually during the Sabathun strike. I'm going to have revived this guy 7 times today.
I don't strike. I don't die in the
I will save you.
Look, let me put it this way. There's void light all throughout that strike. I'm good. I'm
good too. We're both void characters. It's fine. I will have your back.
I actually do kind of feel like we should just read that card now. I know it's
the Silicon Neuroma.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's a good. I think it's a good segue into kind of his. I mean, we're kind of talking about his story, anyways.
Yeah.
I think it's
this
a
is
good
the beginning of it in a way,
yeah,
at least as far as we know.
I mean, yeah, it's a Thorn last word situation where we kind of got the middle in Destiny 1, and now we're getting the beginning, and I wouldn't say we got the end, but we're getting closer to his culmination of where we are right now. So, do you have that pulled up?
I do.
What does the text say?
The flavor text says, "My future is concurrently irreversible and unknowable. Before it overtakes me, I desire a more abrupt end to those responsible. Asher Mir." A staggering Vex detonates, and the Exo Hunter is torn in two. One half sinks beneath the lake's opaque surface. Asher's eyes go wide as he freezes. Whatever they stumbled into down here, he was Wow, that's a word. Bungie, I don't like you. Thank you. Thank you, Warlock. More lethal. He reloads his fusion rifle and looks around wildly. The other hunter, she's the only one left alive. No, stay calm. Throws a smoke bomb and disappears. Asher barely has time to react before the hunter reappears on the high ground and draws a bow of void energy almost in slow motion. Crack, crack, crack. 10 Vex fall. Asher watches them disintegrate, looks back up to the hunter. But the yellow gratitude catches in his throat as 4 Vex shimmer into existence behind her. Asher can't watch this time. He frantically searches for a way out, and a tentacle grabs his ghost. A millisecond of pain in his shoulder, and everything goes white. By the way, I'm so glad there's a Night Stalker in this card, just because it makes utter sense for a Night Stalker to be in this card for the Pyramidion strike, because that strike is BS otherwise.
Mm-hmm. As a Night Stalker, I completely agree.
Yeah, me too. I pretty much only run it now.
Oh, such a painful strike.
Mm-hmm. But just the idea that the tentacle, a tentacle grabs his ghost. So a harpy grabs his ghost? Is that what I'm reading? Because harpies are really the only Vex that have tentacles.
That's what I would assume, that the Vex was basically, or the harpy was the thing that had kind of injected even Asher with it, possibly, because within vicinity, I would assume that would be, the ghost would be pretty close by, and Asher would also be like right by his ghost.
Mm-hmm.
Though, now that I think about it, I find this really odd. Remember back when the trailers dropped for Destiny 2, and it was the Rally the Troops trailer, how we didn't see that any ghosts were out?
Right.
And everybody was like, well, yeah, that's because it's a combat zone. They don't keep their ghosts out.
They're in their pocket.
What's Asher doing right now? What's Asher's ghost doing right now in a combat zone, sticking out?
Maybe he's trying to get out of there. Maybe he's trying to evac out.
To be fair, though, also in the Curse of Osiris, Sagira's not in Osiris's pocket when they're in the simulation.
I'm just going back to an old argument just for the sake of being like, hey, ghosts don't stay in people's pockets all the time in combat zones. So this is just a little extra on that.
I mean, I totally run around in strikes with my ghost out when I'm just like, I don't, because it's really hard.
I mean, if you're needing information, the thing that you use to get information is ghost. I'm constantly pulling out my ghost while I'm in strike to see how many more Vex I have to kill for this challenge for Ikora.
That's true. Or to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
And who is what is our flashlight? Our ghost.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So in that instance, we also need them out for that stuff too. So
Granted,
there's like
with Brachion, it's pretty bright down there.
Well, we don't know about what instance we had seen too.
Yeah, because remember,
that lake is not a metaphor.
Yeah, really.
Oh yeah, that's okay. So that whole thing is weird because it's the pit area where that dialogue happens. I actually got to play that strike earlier today.
Right.
So
which.
I still love that entire line of dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. So freaking funny.
So when you're running the Pyramidion, there's the pit you jump down that has the Vex, basically elevator that takes you down to Brachion. That apparently wasn't there when Asher went through. There apparently was a lake there.
Well, the entire strike run doesn't add up to what.
Because he's confused the entire time.
Right.
I'm going to say Ikora has the line, I forget it exactly, but he
throws
goes like,
down the mic.
Yes, I think our Gensym Scribe has said impossible about 12 times and counting.
Oh, I love that.
Impossible!
I want to hear that voice line, by the way.
Impossible. Impossible. Can it be? Impossible. Impossible.
The other one is
just like
the other one where she's like, the only reason he feels comfortable saying that is because I'm not on the same planet as him. I was like, yes. The warlocks are throwing shade at each other.
I kind of feel like Asher pulls and I'm not going to say it because it's definitely not PG-13. But I feel like Asher pulls a Boondock Saints moment. Certainly represents the diversity of the word.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oy,
But,
oy.
yeah, and it's chat's kind of pointing out, also we do know that the Pyramidion supposedly can alter reality in a weird way. So the fact that we have, and I think Beard, you're kind of mentioning that we don't know what instance of the Pyramidion Asher was experiencing. Obviously, it was a different one.
We are experiencing.
Right. It's obviously two different instances.
Yeah. I'm going to say there's at least two different ones that we know of, but I'm probably going to venture a guess and say that between the gate and the way that everything opens, the Pyramidion is probably a space very similar to the Vault of Glass anyway. So they would have some means of some pretty heavy manipulation between them. For all we know, too, that was a communication point or a relay or something for Vault of Glass as well. There's nothing that unfortunately goes into that idea or concept, but it's definitely highly assumed that there's more than just the two that we have seen, or the one that we have seen and the other that Asher has seen.
This is true.
But yeah, I definitely, the Pyramidion is the start of all of this, of course, for Asher. It is the biggest thing, if you will, that basically makes him who he is today. He was, however, referred to as a Gensym Scribe before, which I don't know if Green or Blue, if either of you want to get into that a little bit more.
Yeah, and I was actually going to say the same thing. I was going to say that, we kind of get the idea that he was a Gensym Scribe prior to his experience with the Pyramidion. Be just simply, I don't know, there's not anywhere that's specifically stated, but like with the Ghost Fragment Heiress, she refers to him as Gensym Scribe. She doesn't, she doesn't refer to him by name out loud, at least. We also find out there that she and he are apparently very, not close, but they are very similar in the way that they kind of aggravate Ikora.
Well,
because wasn't that the similarity that was drawn between the two of them, is that they both were like,
beyond the fact that they both have aspects of another race.
Yes,
built into themselves.
Right. There's that, but I mean, I thought, if I remember right, wasn't that specifically kind of drawn as a parallel between the two of them? Like, because that's where we can learn that Asher was always kind of cantankerous and difficult to get along with.
I mean, it's in the Eris Morn card, the Ghost Fragment Eris Morn card, which is also the only place prior to this armor set that we have mentioned at the Gensym Scribe.
Not correct.
Really? Because I just looked for another set of it, and it doesn't have.
So okay, here's the really annoying thing about the Gensym Scribes. We've known about these guys since. Hang on, real quick. Let me look this up.
It was probably Dark Below, if I want to remember.
Because it was the Harlequin Pendulum.
Right,
and
but there's not a whole.
Oh my gosh! I saw that.
Bringing it up.
I don't know. I'm looking at it. The interesting thing about the Harlequin Pendulum was that it was, at the time, one of the only bonds that actually would change based on the time of the world around your character.
Right.
It would change colors based on the world's time. And it was also one of the 3D ones, so it was a really cool bond.
Right,
and it was,
that.
oh my gosh, it was so aggravating because it was the only reference to the Gensym Scribes that we had for ever. So thank you, Bungie, for finally expanding on that a little bit. But yeah, so we don't really know, and we still don't know what the Harlequin Pendulum does. We don't really, and we don't know anything about the Gensym Scribes. But we do know that Gensym is a term that is, it's kind of a weird thing. The closest thing to a definition I think that we've kind of all agreed on in chat is basically that it's an item that is used like in a code, basically, that takes place of what's referred to as a line item or an object within that code, until you can find a permanent structure to replace it with. So it's basically a placeholder. There's also a lot of conversation around the fact that you can look at it as a combination of genetic symbiosis, which Asher kind of fits as well. And so there's kind of a thought there, though. Again, if Asher was a Gensym Scribe prior to the Pyramidion incident,
Which it was.
Right. I'm kind of more inclined to think of it as they're a Warlock order as far as we know. Granted, we only know of Asher. We don't know if the 2 hunters he was with were also Gensyms. We do know that there are apparently knights as well as scribes because of the armor set. But that's really honestly about it. So we don't even know really if it's like the hidden where, all classes are part of it, or if it's like the Praxic Fire where only warlocks are part of it.
I'm having a thought.
This is dangerous.
Yeah, I know it generally is. So, this guy's called the Hive. They have these classes. They're called knights and wizards and everything. I'm wondering if it's not something to kind of mirror that idea and just kind of further goes along with the mirror, if you will.
Right, but I mean, I guess my counter argument to that entire, which I'm open to, but I guess my counter argument to that is why. Like, why would what's the purpose of mirroring the Hive within
because of Beard's video about us eventually becoming the Hive?
Okay, well, I mean, right, okay, so like within that realm of theoretics, yes, okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna say as Spinfoil goes, basically. But even then, I'm looking at it from the standpoint of why would the Hive even name themselves the way that they do?
Well,
because by all counterpoints, of course, we should not be named warlocks. We should be the wizards.
Yes,
this
is an age-old argument on Destiny's part.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this one goes way back, but it's from base principle, I guess, of naming schemes. I guess that's the only thing that I'm looking at, if you will. If there's going to be knights, then why is it that that's only showcased within this particular group that we know very little about? We also don't necessarily know if Toland left behind anything or whatnot, so I don't know. Maybe I could just.
I mean, the other thing that you could look at it is as a lexicon gap, and that's just what we are translating the Hive terminology as, which is not always a lacuna coil. That's what I'm looking. That's the term I was looking for. Green, what do you have for us?
I just kind of wanted to talk about a little bit of the Gensym Knight lore entry, because the lore entry itself is interesting in the fact that it talks about the aspect of having this alien source within its own body, and it's a letter from Asher to Eris, which is also fun, and it mentions Nokris, our fun little friend, which I've had many a talk about on Twitter this last week.
I can't imagine why.
Oh god, do you want to do the flavor text thing?
Yes.
Or the lore entry thing?
Yes.
What does the text say?
Flavor text says, remember the universe is a chaotic system. This frippery won't protect you from the continuum. Asher Mir. Eris, I've scoured my library, but found nothing on this Nokris of which you speak. I am sorry for both the delay that I could not be of more help. Do you ever feel any affection for the creatures that changed you? I confess this weakness myself. In the shadow of the Pyramidion, I have sometimes felt a kind of craven admiration for this illimitable superior being that suffuses my body. I can feel them more through my veins with purpose, magnetized to the intent of the minds that have come to macro form Echo Mesa. I have a sense of their desires. They have changed since I fell, and so I am, if nothing else, a new variable in whatever grand equation compels them. My arm grows worse. This morning, I cut my finger and bled Radiolaria. I will redouble my efforts. Truth and action, Asher Mir. Gosh.
Cannot state how much I love that sign off.
Truth and action? Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, the fact that also that he's still continuing to work on things beyond his own situation. Granted, it's for Eris, who is also a friend of his, but
I also kind of take it as, again, kind of going back to his base character and the affliction really that he's kind of struggling with. Remember, he's been sidelined. So like,
sort of
research is
himself,
right. Well, right. But I guess my point is that he's not busy doing other stuff at this point. Research is really the only way that he seems to think that he can fit in to the world now, because he doesn't want to put himself front and center into danger. And so like, and I agree with you that I think it's interesting that he's still doing research on other aspects of information searches and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But I also would like to, also point out that he probably has a lot more free time now if he's not going out on strikes. He's not going out on strikes and doing all that.
Well, how many wizards in a tower can you see in Destiny 2? Because warlocks are notorious for staying at home. Well,
but see, that brings us to another lore entry, which is Ashermir's one-way ticket. Mm-hmm. Because Asher hasn't left Io. Which is really kind of confusing if you think about it. Because this is the one kind of qualm that I have with the entire story of Asher. Is like, if you read Ashermir's one-way ticket, it makes it sound like he's never left Io after his kind of incident. But then you read Ghost Fragment Eris, and he's in the tower after the accident. So how did he get back to Io?
I mean, he has to have left Io.
Right. But I mean, if you read, let me pull it up real quick.
I have it.
Okay, you got it. Well, let me pull it up so that I'm not speaking completely off memory, because that's a dangerous thing for me to do. Excuse me.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily...
Because at the very end, it says they could bring him every jump ship in the system, and he'd never leave the Rupture.
But I think I think that's talking about since the Red War has started.
Okay.
In comparison to the Red War.
Gotcha. Okay, I gotcha. I can... Okay. That's a good point. I didn't think about it like that. To again tie back to Ikora and Asher, this is also where you get the impression that Asher and Ikora are closer than most of the Vanguard and Asher, simply because Ikora understands the concept of the fear of death.
Well, also Ikora understands the being the smartest person in the room and having to translate your thoughts to some other person. We kind of get that in some of the missions too.
That's true. Yeah, that is true.
Beard, what did you have wicked deja vu on?
Nothing. I'm just like looking at. I might just sit at this computer too much. I think that's all it comes down to.
Asher has the Vex. Eris has the Hive. Beard has his computer. It kind of all balances, right?
I think
basically.
I mean, the three of us have an unhealthy addiction to our computers. To be honest, I have 4 screens, so I mean, yeah.
I've only got 2 and a high quality microphone and a really good microphone or a really good webcam and that I never use and
Black Flag actually has a really good point on the topic. Sorry, real quick. On the topic of staying on Io. Black Flag in chat saying, is Asher staying on Io a choice or a compulsion of the Radiolaria in his veins?
Vex or not. Go for it.
I'm going to say that's honestly a great point, only because we know that Asher is in part being affected by the pull of what is changing.
Really?
As we just ended up
in the Arcebo mission? What?
Arcebo?
Just something like that. I couldn't tell you.
Maybe he's a ballet lover, which is the name of the ghost on that.
Yes, Asher's ghost name is Arecibo. The biggest thing though that we just got done reading, of course, too, for from Asher to Eris, it's just this whole point and idea that now Asher is starting to feel at least something for the Vex, or some kind of connection that leaves him there or makes him want to continue to stay there. That is very possible.
Well, okay.
And it's
that makes me worry, the wording of that, whether it is a compulsion to stay there to try to figure out what is going on, because he does feel this connection and is able to track some of the changes that is going on in IO. Or is it literally he wants to stay there because of the admiration feeling towards it?
It has to be a bit of both. Of what I know of Asher, of what has been presented so far, it has to be a bit of both. He's worried about himself changing fully into a Vex, but he is also there for the sake of, one, initially revenge, but now at this point it is the thing that is effectively keeping him there to continue to either unlock the mysteries of what Io was able to do to him, or at least what the Pyramidion was able to do to him. And just because Brachion's dead doesn't mean, of course, that the Pyramidion has lost any power, apparently.
Right.
So all of these functions have to be at least considered in that respect. I think that is why he's... I think overall it just comes down to him being a researcher, but also in a lot of ways being pulled by the Vex because of what he's transforming into. So again, I think it has to be a bit of both.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too there is, we've seen the effect of Radiolaria on Guardians, especially within Kabir, right? I mean, Kabir is obviously the other connection. What we don't know the full effect of that. This argument can also be applied to Eris, as well.
Mm-hmm. For funsies, we can at least say that we know what happens when a Vex touches you versus what happens when you possibly drink it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yes, we know that. I mean, yes, that is a very valid distinction.
And the question that I have is, if Brachion is able to completely replace an arm with a Vex arm, why haven't we had more instances of this happening with people who have gone into the Pyramidion?
So what is suggested by this is it's at least possible that Asher's armor was probably damaged at one point or another and had his arm exposed. Because all of the instances that kind of are read by like Vault of Glass armor or even by some of the other armor is just don't touch them with bare skin.
Okay.
So at least the way that I've read that, of course, just indicates that he lost a portion of his armor, the harpy damaged it, ripped it off, something. If we're taking it as a harpy.
I mean, we know the Radiolarian fluid is highly hallucinogenic.
Right. Yeah, I'm going to say for all we know, it was something that I don't want to say that he like inhaled or anything, because we already know what happens with Radiolaria or silica or anything related to that.
Man.
It's not fun, and I think it would do a lot worse for him. But yeah, the fire team would have been under a lot more stress and a lot more problem if there was some kind of like hallucinogen that was put into the air.
Well, and I think that
we don't have proof on that one.
Right, but I think that
crazier.
Also kind of goes back to the silicon neuroma, because, kind of going back to this idea of what a neuroma is, and a neuroma just, is a scientific term for a tumor or a mass that grows from a nerve. So if he, let's be really grisly for a second and say that his arm was ripped off and Radiolaria got into that wound, or even if he was wounded and the Radiolaria got into that wound, it could have formed a literal silicon neuroma, and that mass evolved into an arm. I mean, we don't know. Kind of going back to the original, the point of the initial entry here, Lost Lore being the Vex as Radiolarians, we know that there's at least a very distinct possibility that the Vex aren't Radiolarians in and of themselves, but they do use Radiolaria. Like the Radiolaria fluid is their mind fluid, the juice box, whatever you want to call it.
Right. And we collect those. That's part of the patrol missions.
Correct. Right. And I mean, but I'm saying is and we know that with Radiolaria, one of the things that they do is they build structure. So, in the argument, the Vex have always been described as, living metal. And so if you kind of think about that, then it's not entirely out of the realm of possibility that this arm is literally a Vex parasite growing on him. I mean, we kind of know it is a parasite, but the arm could literally be the Vex. It could be an entity of a Vex growing on him, into him, just kind of like that, like a leech itself. It could be a neuroma.
A symbiosis.
Yes, it could be a neuroma of Vex that is literally taking over his body, which, I mean, to be frank, is kind of along the lines of what we do know so far.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that goes along with the first word of it, which is silica neuroma. Right. There's a bit of a problem with silica. It doesn't really like to bond with carbon.
Doesn't like to bond with much.
No, even though apparently in recent science we've figured out a way to actually get silica and carbon to bond.
Have we really?
Tenuous. It's tenuous at best, but I have read a few articles that have backed up the findings. It was somewhere over in Japan, go figure. But yeah, I've read a few things about it. It's very interesting. If anything can actually,
they always kind of seem like oil and water.
Yeah, I guess really very similar. Which is kind of the interesting thing about Radiolaria in general, however, because there's still a carbon basing, if you will, but they have that silica skeleton. And it's so odd to kind of find that mixing. We, at least to my knowledge, have not found another organism that fits that bill. And it's just this odd man out amongst the rest of entomology. It's just very weird.
It's very alien.
Yeah, it's almost like it comes from another world. But that kind of goes along with the idea of the Vex, though, as well. Where I've always questioned: are the Vex just going about a protocol or going about a program, and that's all that there is to it, or is it something where they effectively do know what it is that's happening with themselves or otherwise? It continues to be this question that I have with the way that the Vex would handle if they were programmed, if they were carrying out some kind of operation, if the Radiolaria actually told them to do something, this, that, the other thing. We're left to still question this even 3-4 years later here on how they actually interact with everything, what it is that they're actually being told to do. And we have Asher Mir now, who is kind of a great lead-in to kind of understanding more and more of what goes into the Vex, of what effectively their mindset is. And I think that's one of the most, at least for me, fascinating things about him. Osiris wasn't able to really give us much about it, except for, well, convergence is going to happen, so we better stop it. Thanks, Osiris. Can you give me anything else about them, like where they came from, anything like that? No? All right.
We kind of knew where they came
Asher.
from, right?
Just because of Crota. The lore behind it.
Oh, Crota. Sort of. Blame him for everything.
I totally...
Everybody
that jerk needs to be blamed for pretty much everything.
But it's this constant back and forth that I have. That at one point it feels like the Vex are in control. At another, it feels like they're in control, but just following a program. And if I take it from the instance of that, then what they're doing for Asher is, if he did lose his arm or anything like that, they're following that program of altering the imperfection. And there's, of course, in essence, especially if it comes down to convergence, that is their whole programming line. That is their end game. But to kind of see it in this regard, and we don't necessarily know the spread at which it's occurring to either his ghost or to Asher himself, but we know that he was able to cut his finger and he started to bleed Radiolaria. So it's a slow convergence or slow transference from a woken body into a Vex body. And now the question is, did the Vex mean to do that with a purpose of getting rid of him? Or was it that they're just following protocol? And that's possibly what makes the Vex even more dangerous.
Yep. I agree. And I think that goes back into the idea of are the Vex, this kind of goes into the bigger argument with the Vex. Are they, kind of what you're saying is, are they programs? Are they just machines, or are they actually living beings with a degree of free will and, able for self-awareness and everything like that? Even if it's at the high echelons of the hive mind, is there a degree of free will allowed in the Vex programming? Because, I can see the argument of a true hive mind, ants or bees, the drones don't necessarily have a degree of independent thought necessarily, but the queen, the queen bee or the queen ant always kind of has that drive, that direction that it imposes upon the drones. Is that the same with the Vex, or is the Vex literally, we put in the binary code and didn't put an escape path and oops?
I mean, as far as the Vex actually trying to convert a guardian in general, which I find the most interesting aspect of this whole discussion, is the idea of how do you take a creature who is self-sufficient, self-independent, and convert them? If the Vex are completely a hive mind type creature, how do you convert them a guardian who is a self-sufficient creature to an extent? I know there's some debate upon that aspect itself, but how do you convert a guardian into a Vex without losing the actual self-sufficiency of that guardian itself?
But I guess my argument, and I think this is kind of what Beard was trying to say too, is that I don't know, and this is kind of the dangerous thing, right, is we don't know that they care about losing the self-sufficiency, because to what we see in the Vex with the idea of converting this, and that's going back to the Osiris thing, that's what makes the idea of this convergence so dangerous. Is it's not a matter of we're right, you're wrong. It's a matter of we are going to correct the error that is in you, and that is, in order to do that, you become one of us. It's the one of us type mentality.
If that's the case, why don't they try that with every guardian they come across?
I mean, who's to say that they haven't?
Well,
Asher's the first one they've ever actually succeeded on.
Well, and that's, I think, because there's not many of them that have exposed skin.
I think that goes back to that exactly. I think Asher was a happy accident.
Yeah, we have to look at it from the fact that our guardians are still in need of stuff like oxygen, this, that, the other thing. Otherwise, if we get to the Dreadnought, we wouldn't need a helmet.
Right.
And with how ripped open it was when we ended up getting blown off of the off-Era's ship at that point, we needed a helmet to still breathe. And it was put onto us by Ghost, or we quickly did so when we got fired out of the cockpit. But what I mean by that, of course, is that we're in need of these of our armor, regardless of what it looks like, needing to be airtight in a lot of ways. Or at least the helmet necessarily kind of needs to be. And even then, the body should be completely covered if we're talking the vacuum of space.
Well, that's assuming we need oxygen at all, as sort of lich-like characters that have been
That's a fair point.
reconstituted multiple times.
The other thing is we might need oxygen in the immediate sense. Like we need oxygen to remain active, but we're not worried about dying of asphyxiation because we'll just get resurrected, right?
Food, but we do on pleasure's sake.
Well, and this goes back to a conversation I was just having on Twitter not long ago about realistically the revival of Guardians and why it is that we don't end up getting a hold of our memories again. Is it the theory behind, well, the Traveler doesn't want us to remember what's going on? Or is it because the brain doesn't have the capacity to necessarily remember memory being dead for a while, but by all accounts, the nervous system can be reproduced to at least restore basic motor and speech because of things like muscle memory. These are the things that are questioned when it comes down to resurrection, and we don't necessarily know, but I'm going to go by the theory and understanding that we can eat and drink, that we have some kind of metabolic need. And for a lot of metabolic need in carbon, that requires oxygen.
That's fair. And I think the other thing, too, is there's a difference between a synaptic path and muscle memory to a degree. Like they both operate on synaptic pathways, of course, but muscle memory has a much more holistic role where memory is purely, supposedly, I'm on thin ice on this one. Memory is is generally assumed wholly synaptic firings, right? Or of a degree of that is like, whereas muscle memory, you involve the whole body in doing an event. Memory can be done just in your head.
Memory is a synaptic pathway that has been constituted, that is revisited time to time. I mean, that's...
Or never again.
Right. But, I mean, if it's a memory, you've constituted it enough to be able to recall it from time to time. It doesn't necessarily involve multiple things beyond that initial synaptic response.
Correct.
But unless it is perfectly recalled, it is never done the same way again.
And I was go for it, Beard. I was going to say the other thing with memories is, and this is why I don't have as annoying as it is, I don't have a huge problem with the memory lapse in Guardians, is because the other thing with memory is, even in our own life, like even just in the short span of time that humans currently have on this planet, we can see in our brains synaptic decay. For example, and Green, you probably know this too. Example, kids who don't use musical instruments. You can literally see that part of the brain almost literally wither up. It doesn't get used. Yeah. That's a drought. It's an over. Yeah. But like, if you don't use a part of your brain, the body just, you lose it. Like it becomes very difficult and almost in some cases impossible for a adult who never was exposed to, learning how to read music. It becomes very difficult. That's why young kids. Well, right. There are obviously outliers, but that's why very young children can pick up extra languages so fast, is because all the synaptic pathways are pretty much there for the taking. Whereas down the road, if you haven't used that aspect of your brain, even in the short, like, what is it, like 7 years, or 8 years, that the firing path is already set. It's already particularly set in a specific pattern. So breaking out of that pattern is much more difficult.
It can be. Right. I mean, the idea is riding, like the old adage, it's like riding a bike.
Yeah.
You can, most adults can pick up riding a bike again after a little while. It does take a little bit of practice because you're having to reforge some of those pathways. It's just the concept of there's going to be a bit of a barrier because you haven't had those muscle motor skills for a while. So you have to rebuild that synapsis, that bridge again.
Right. And I guess the thing with that is that, again, that ties into muscles, which tactically, tacitly, I am having trouble with words tonight. Tacitly, there's that physical component which allows for a crisper and quicker recall. Whereas if you're talking about, which is why, like, for anyone who's ever played a piano, or played a musical instrument in general, if you haven't played for a number of years and you sit down, there's always that there's that one song that you can never get out of your freaking head. And you can, like, sit down and immediately you might not know how to play anything else, but you can play that stupid song.
I can say that for certain. I've frozen you burned into my memory for some reason. Anything else I have trouble with.
Yeah, mine is the Imperial March, which I'm not entirely upset about. I'm not entirely upset about it, but I can sit down at a piano and I don't even know, like, I mean, I can read music pretty well, but, like, I have no illusions that I could play the piano as well as I used to. But I can bang out the Imperial March on the piano without hesitation. And it's mostly because I just drilled it into my brain. And that's the thing is I don't even think, that's how you can tell it's true muscle memory. Riding bikes, rollerblading, a lot of sports, actually, the actions that you can driving to work. Everyone knows that one. If you've ever driven to work and not remembered how you got there, welcome to muscle memory. Like, that's muscle memory 101 right there. If you do something and you don't think about it and, you do it not even well, you just get it done, that's muscle memory. But memory is a completely different animal. And that's what, I mean, this is something I can go on for hours on, because this is where psychology really gets, in my mind, really interesting. But, again, to kind of pull the reins back a little bit, and get it back into line with Asher. I don't know how I'm going to do that, to be bluntly honest. My muscle memory is not that good because I'm not good at segues.
It really just comes down to, like, how the Vex are now affecting him, like, fully.
Fair.
And to kind of think about, like, how his nervous system, how anything is being changed as he goes by.
Synaptic paths.
Seeing it, absolutely. And are those synaptic paths also being affected by space and time now at this point? We don't know. He doesn't necessarily even know. And he's describing all these different effects that are kind of happening to him. He's telling them to Eris in letters. He's effectively saying stuff like, hey, I'm starting to kind of feel good about what the Vex are doing in a way. Not really, but I am. Is that weird? Should I feel weirded out by that? This kind of, like, weird stuff that's happening with him.
It makes me think of A Beautiful Mind.
Yeah, just about, actually.
I mean, sort of.
It's a good connection. Yeah.
Because that's the one where he has the hallucinations, right?
Right.
Am I thinking it right? Because then he at the end, when he just accepts it, and he's like, does anyone else see this person? And everyone's like, yeah, we see him. And he's like, okay, cool. It's like, yes.
Yeah. The problem is that we're going from a character who supposedly, I'm assuming that Awoken biology has iron-based blood to a silicone-based blood, which, granted, silicone would be a faster transmuter of neuropathy. I'm not neuropathy, but it's neurotic.
It's a faster transmitter of information in general.
Right. Which would be amazing as far as, like, an actual if you're going to transmute into anything, transmute into a silicone-based creature, because that would make you able to process things much faster compared to the iron-based characters that we are currently. And that's assuming that Awoken are still iron-based, but it just makes there's so many questions. There's so many questions with Asher, which makes... I love Asher in the fact that he is the crotchety old... Okay, I honestly have a view of him as... God, what's the guy's name? He is the old Wild Wild West guy who did the movie about the kids on it. It's essentially the kids on his lawn. It's not I can't think of his name. My grandpa used to watch him all the time. Anyway, he's the crotchety old man who's like,
Oh,
get
are
off
you
my
thinking Clint Eastwood?
Yes.
All
Thank
right.
Oh,
you.
see, I totally see him as Carl from Up.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Carl from Up is essentially Clint Eastwood, but
Well,
slightly
that's true.
toned down.
That's
like-
true.
Carl has a nicer side to him. Clint Eastwood's like, somebody get my gun.
Right.
You know, that's the big difference, I'd say there. But
Which is
sure.
Which is what Asher would be if he could be, type thing. I mean, let's be honest.
What are
he
you
would
saying?
shoot
If he
you.
can hold a gun, no, he can hold a gun. It's called Vex Influence. Get out of
Hey,
here.
he hasn't shown that. He has not shown that. He just complains about headaches constantly because of the freaking cabal mining system that comes in every 15 minutes, which, by the way, I timed it. It's every 15 minutes that comes in, and he gets a migraine every 15 minutes.
That poor guy.
Asher
No
has
wonder
a
he's
serious problem.
no wonder
Yeah,
he's
well,
grumpy.
I'm gonna say between the migraines and the Radiolaria taking over
Oh
his
my
system, I think
God.
he's got a reason or 5.
Yeah. Asher is the Clint Eastwood of the Destiny universe, for sure.
Yeah, at least in the grumpy sense, not the. Are you sure you want to do that, punk?
Oh, I'm sure okay, well, maybe. I'm giving him a lot of credit by saying that he would seriously do that kind of aspect. Like, say, do you really want to do that, punk, you little hunter warlock titan punk type thing? You want to get on my lawn type thing?
Mhm.
But, it's Asher, I think, is a little bit more resolved to let people come near him, even
Well,
if he does have a headache.
That's why I say that he's more of a Carl than he is than he is an Eastwood. I think that kind of fits it.
Of course,
a little
now you say that, I'm standing right in front of him, and with
Yeah.
the hairstyle that he has, I'm like, now I can
Oh,
see.
yeah.
Now I can see the Eastwood figure. Like I can see his
Right.
face. I'm like, oh,
Don't think Marty McFly though. Don't
Man
do
with no
that,
name.
But, yep, man with no name. Just give him a poncho. You're good to go.
No.
Actually,
No.
So, okay, hang on.
Hawthorne is the only one who can support that in Destiny. I will say that.
okay,
and I
poncho.
kind of want that poncho. I really
guess-
want that poncho.
I guess that's fair, but actually looking at him, and I forgot about this, but one of the other things that Eastwood was fairly known for was like just a rawhide leather coat. So
Mhm.
maybe that is what they were going for. I don't know.
Maybe.
I would just like to
I
say
mean, he does have the bombardier blue eyes.
he does.
Yeah,
I would
but
just like to say
that's
that-
the Awoken thing. That's the Awoken thing. I will say that's the Awoken thing.
I would like to say that I would love to have that coat. Even IRL, I want that coat.
Mhm.
But you will also notice, actually, now that I look again, and I didn't even pick up on this, he doesn't necessarily have any sleeves on that coat. It looks like it's a shirt underneath it. So
I can't imagine
he's
why.
Really ill-equipped. Yeah, I'm gonna say he's really ill-equipped.
Maybe that's
He's a
why
wannabe
for
bodybuilder.
maybe that's why we brought him a one-arm sweater.
Oh,
Wow.
see, I had so many problems with the dawning gifts, and that
I'm
was
gonna
one of
say-
them that made me so sad. That and the gift for failsafe, giving her freaking earrings. It's like, oh my god, guys, really?
I'm gonna say as soon as the dark half went, what am I supposed to do with this?
these? You're like, I don't know.
Hysterical. Hysterical
Oh.
but terrible all at the same time.
Oh my god.
Oh,
One
well.
arm sweater. I didn't even get that one. Now I feel really disappointed.
I nearly died. I nearly died
Oh
when that
my
was
God.
the gift. I was
You
like,
message me, Beard. That's how excited he was about that one. He messaged me about that. It's like, oh, Asher had a one-arm sweater. I'm like, God, Beard.
What did we do? Did we make it out of frickin' Vex plasteel and radio thread?
I'll have to,
That'd be
I have
pretty
to look.
cool,
I'll have to look
actually.
up my notes because I did make a note of what it was made out of.
Oh,
It was
God.
what was it? It was lattice. I think it was data lattice. I'll have to look my notes up.
It's
But
even
yeah.
worse.
It was something, but it was something. It was either that or it was spin glass or whatever the fibers
Spin
were.
foil?
The phase
No,
glass.
not spin foil. It's the
The phase glass.
phase glass. Yeah, because you can one of the glasses that you could get, it's either phase glass or what's the other kind of metallic thing? It's not dust crystals. There's another one that you can make
Dark light
into
crystals?
No, not the dark light crystals.
I mean,
we took
alkaline.
Zavala's. Yeah, alkaline I think was the other one.
Alkaline,
One
of
of
course.
there's two of them that you can make fabric out of. Interestingly enough, and phase glass was one of them. But yeah, we took Zavala's knitting class.
And made a sweater for. Oh, that's so sad. Zavala would have a knitting class, and B, that we would make a sweater for Asher.
Oh well, we know that he had one in Destiny 1. Those who wish to attend Zavala's knitting class will come to the hangar at.
Oh, that was.
I miss the PA announcements so much from Destiny 1. But speaking of the PA announcements, do you guys want to look at a couple of the dispatches that we got?
Yeah.
We got a
said
couple
you were
good ones.
Bad at segue.
Hey, look at that. I nailed that one. Except I called it out, so it's not really a segue anymore. Anyways.
It's kind of a segue.
Dispatches received from the wilds.
Oh, man. All right. So we got actually a couple that I really actually like. First off, Taylor B, I wanted to give a big shout out. We do have his email up on our website. If you guys have not had a chance to give that a look over, that is in response to the EXO episode. And it's really good. I need to, when I get a free moment, I'm going to try to respond to it. But if you guys do want to, he sent me a message and he said that he's more than happy to see anyone's thoughts or comments on that one. So you can just throw a comment over on the website. And then my understanding is, Green, you'll have to correct me here if this is incorrect, but Hiko has a number of submissions that we are going to be putting up on the website as well. Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
He go send me his entire folder on Google Drive.
Okay.
To put up on our website. So the first one that he sent me was his poetry on the Titan Wall, which is quite interesting, actually. So,
all right. So I'll work to get that put up. And then we have a email from Firegug that is a response to the 9 episode. And he says, "Hello all, I just listened to the recent 9 episode, and in the middle of binary stars, black holes, and trees falling in the void, I thought of the double slit experiment as it relates to light. And that is," he says, "yes, big and little L. The idea being that light behaves differently when observed or recorded, or when it isn't, as if the light has a consciousness. Curious as to your thoughts. Dead Orbit Hunter approved. Des. Dead Orbit Hunter here."
So can I explain the double slit experiment real quick?
Please do.
So the double slit experiment is the experiment that both proved that light is a wave and a particle. It is the experiment that had 2 little slits, exactly what it says, 2 little slits that light traveled through, and it created a wave pattern as well as provided the evidence for a particle pattern on a template for it to come up against. The idea that light, big L and little L light, behaves differently when observed or not observed, or when it isn't observed. Interesting. That calls into questions the ethics of the big L and little L light to me, because that is what I think about when we distinguish between big L and little L light. The physics side of me thinks that the light is the same across the board, because if light is a wave pattern and a particle pattern, as far as the experiment, if he's comparing it to the experiment itself, big L light being a the ability to create an ethical construct. Sorry, this one I need to actually think about a little bit more because it brings up a lot of questions for me.
Do you want me to put this one up on the website for conversation?
That would be good.
Okay,
That
we
would
can
be
totally
good.
do that.
As far as like debating it physically, because the big L, little l, if it's light in the spectrum, if he's calling into question the light ninja spectrum, whether or not it would behave the same, I would say that would, yes, it would still behave the same because you're still dealing with the spectrum within the infrared and ultraviolet spectrum if we're calling into the question the scientific aspects of it. But if we're calling into the mystical and ethical spectrum, that would bring up a lot more questions.
It's almost like it has a symmetry.
Oh, see.
Going into the ethical, but I mean, going into the ethical aspects of a double slit experiment, that's exactly what it would be, right? I mean, you have a good and an evil. You have
it would just have the binary aspect to it.
I guess
that would prove that it is a wave that fluctuates.
Oh, okay, I see. Okay, yeah. Okay. All right, so we'll put that one up on the website, and we'll let Green think about her answers. Does that sound fair?
Sounds fair to me.
Okay. Well, the other one is not such a review of an episode, but more of an update from Millie. So we haven't heard from Millie in a while. So real quick, this is our good friend Millie, who has well, I'll just read the update because he kind of says what's been going on. It says, "Hey FFC, it's been a while since I've written, and hopefully you still remember me." Spoilers, we still remember you. Just wanted to drop in and let you know that Sleepy and I are both still playing Destiny 2 on a regular basis, almost every day. She's still on her hunter, and she's becoming a pretty good player. Yeah, I thought you would appreciate that. If I remember
correctly, Millie is a Titan.
Yes, he's the one. He's the one that tried to get Sleepy to play a Titan, and she was like, "Nope, I'm playing Hunter."
Then she went to Hunter, which I went, "Yes, you are my lady. I fully support this decision."
Really, there was only one good choice, and she didn't make either of them.
Either of them didn't pick the good choice, so you're just going to have to deal with it, Beard. It's fine.
I guess so. It just means somebody's not getting alcohol if I ever meet them. That's all.
So he's from taking 2 hours to complete Homecoming to consistently beating the Prestige Nightfall. She has come a long way. One of my friends and fellow clanmates prefers to do the Prestige Nightfall with her in our team over any of our other D1 veteran players. That's high praise. Like, that's pretty impressive. I'm still listening to the podcast every week and still debating getting on Discord every week. You should get on Discord. Maybe one of these days I actually will. A Vex that had, let me see. Just to put a little input on the upcoming topic, I think that Asher will fully transform into a Vex. A Vex that has the light, and therefore the Vex will learn to simulate it through their connection with Asher. Everything will be
something else I wanted to bring up.
Everything will be screwed, and D3 will just be a fresh start. Will be actually all just a simulation. Just kidding, but it could be an interesting direction to go.
Dang.
Sleepy's birthday is coming up in less than a month, and I got her a birthday present that I've been dying to tell someone about, but either don't trust them not to tell her, or they don't play Destiny. My mom was a little confused about it. If this ends up getting read on the show, don't read it, because she might find out. Shh, I redacted it. Cost me a pretty penny, and I think she will love it. I'm hoping anyway. Yes, I have in there. It's redacted by Blue. This is all that I have for this time. I hope you all are doing well and hanging in there. Never let up the great work, and congrats on the Lord Network. It sounds amazing. Till next time, Millie.
Okay, Millie, you are a complete and utter jerk for sending in this email before she gets the opportunity to hear it, because if she hears this podcast, she's going to assume she's going to hear the answer to what she's going to be getting. But Blue redacted it per your instructions.
I am trying to help the man, okay? I am trying.
So I know it's not your fault. It's Millie's fault. I am going to completely throw it on him. Sir, you are going to be, and I'm going to do this on behalf of her because I'm sure she's going to be frustrated as well. But sir, you are a complete and utter jerk because you sent this in with the answer to what you're going to be getting her, but you didn't.
And it's amazing, by the way.
My God. I can't even see it because Blue redacted it in our show notes, so I don't even know what it is.
Millie, it's a good job. Good job. I think you fully approve of the gift.
Yeah. Millie, sir, as somebody that also does not know what the gift is, A+ trolling, definitely good on the 9 games.
Yes,
You just earned yourself a shot if I do meet you, good sir.
This is an ultimate troll.
It doesn't matter if you're a Titan. This is good.
Wait, what? Because he's a Titan, that means he's not as good as trolling as Warlocks are? Is that what I'm hearing from you? Because
no, the whole idea is that because they're a Titan and a Hunter, I wasn't going to buy them any alcohol at all if I ever happened to meet them. But because of this A+ trolling, he at least has earned a shot. The Hunter still has yet to redeem themselves.
You know what, hun? Okay, Sleepy, you get a shot from me. You don't go to Beard because Beard is kind of a stuck-up little warlock man who is an Asher lover. I will give you a shot.
The only reason I'm an Asher lover is because he's the only one that makes any freaking sense in this game anymore.
He's a crotchety old man. That's why he loves him. It's fine.
I still think that we should get Beard a one-arm sweater.
Yes. Oh my God, that would be amazing. I kind of want to buy one from like
Guardian Con
and just re-crochet it.
Rip the arm off.
Do that before they go out of business.
That's true.
Yeah, but that's true.
I bet you could get a good deal from Toys R. Oh wait,
no, they're shut down too. But
actually, there's a guy that was looking to buy them, and he was going to save like 400 stores or something. I was like, what?
That store isn't even worth it anymore.
I know.
Oh man, so loved the dispatches this week. Let's go real quick. Final comments, shout outs. Beard, what do you got for us?
Actually, a big shout out to Mr. Justin, because I haven't been able to talk to him longer than 5 minutes on a podcast. But he is definitely missed, and it is family will always and ever come first in my mind on anything. It gets in front of my ability to create content, contrary to what Green had said at the top of the show, where she was, this is the reason that Beard is so slow at actually making content.
I love to poke at you. And by the way,
she wonders why I'm old and crotchety at this point. It's her fault.
It's my fault. God, I'm in Colorado. Why am I affecting you? The reason why Beard's messaging about Justin or mentioning about Justin is Justin actually had to take off because his son actually was having a hard time going to sleep, and so Justin had to take off early. Just in case any of you noticed that he disappeared again this week, that is the reason why that has happened currently.
Yup, that was the reason, and it's a shame because we only really get to make fun of him for snakes, and then it seems like he gets tired of it and runs away.
No.
To be fair, I did populate the notes early so that he would be aware that I was going to make fun of him for snakes.
He did know ahead of time because Blue also messaged him in chat to say, "Hey,
check out the notes."
Just FYI, Justin doesn't look at the show notes before the night of the show, so Blue had mentioned that, hey, I may have put this in here before that Justin noticed it back on like Wednesday before Friday's show recording.
I was being considerate.
Really? Were you?
No, not really. I just really wanted a response from him.
I'm just, shout out to Blue for actually being able to read the new cards at some point this week.
Yes.
I know. It was about the only thing that I was able to do video game wise this week. I was gonna mention that in my shout outs. It's like I get a message before the show starts from you guys like, do you want to talk about the update? I'm like, sure. I have no idea what you're gonna say, but let's talk about it.
We're just talking about like the very general
I saw a
aspects
funny
of it.
YouTube video where a warlock committed suicide by running into a
Oh
wall.
my god, the warlock
But that's
stuff is
pretty
so
much
fun to watch.
pretty much the only thing I know about the update.
Makes me so
Let
glad
me-
that I'm not a warlock.
Let me
right now.
tell you from firsthand experience, it's hysterically fun. And the amount of times I've launched myself off of that small freaking map known as Mercury is
Oh my God.
unbelievable.
Which one? The burnout map?
No, just
patrol, I think, because
just
like it's so tiny.
Mercury.
Oh god, yeah.
Like Bungie, if you're going to make another world, can you make it actually explorable, please?
Hey, I'm glad they made that small because we can't use sparrows on it.
Well,
yeah.
look, they
But you
could have
get
made it
interceptors.
larger and give us the ability to go ahead and utilize our sparrows. And I mean, come on, you should be the one pushing for this because of one big reason: you're a hunter.
It's true.
So
It's true.
You just,
I
I'm
just use
I'm
the
just saying.
little launch pads essentially from one side of the map to the other.
Yeah, but that still causes problems with like the stuff in between. All I'm
fine.
saying is
It's
that
fine.
you can't jump
It's fine.
at this point. You need to get on my level and deal with it. Okay?
Wait, did you say I can't jump? Did
You
you,
can't
a warlock, say
You
that
can't
I, a
jump.
hunter, can't
Yes.
jump?
You
Oh
all right?
my
The
God.
warlock
The
can now
the
Oh
say
my
you
God.
can't
the
jump.
floofer's throwing the glove down.
I know.
The
What the heck is happening?
floofer is
I
officially
need
better off.
another drink to make this make sense because I'm sorry. The floofer who doesn't actually jump, who just glides himself from one spot to another, is telling me that I can't jump. I'm sorry, honey, but that doesn't work for me.
Nope. This is how it's going to end up working now. So isn't that
Nope.
the
Nope.
funny thing?
Nope.
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 Can't
Nope.
jump.
I would say other things, but I would get in way too much
I
trouble
know.
on Twitter.
Trust me.
But
I'm
nope.
trying to keep myself as PG as possible. But you know what? Hunters.
Oh my god.
can't
Trigger,
jump.
you also
roof
are
is
going to get
there.
it from me later. You better not start that. You
No.
better not start
Mm-mm.
that, son.
Look, all right. Look, the Titans can sit in the corner because they're basically finally
It's the
on
chat-
Warlock
the
level.
chat's like,
So,
as-
there we go.
The chat's as per usual. The warlock and hunter compete, and the titan munches popcorn.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Sal, that's a good one. That's a good one, Sal.
Green, do you have any?
Anyway.
Do you have any shout outs, or Beer? Do you have any more
Yeah.
shout outs?
Just one more at this point, I think. That now I forgot. So never mind.
Mine's out to Saint 14 Project again. If you haven't found them on Twitter, please try to find them on Twitter. I think they're at Saint 14 Project, and they have a Discord channel. So if you are listening to this, I know I had somebody who messaged me earlier this week who was asking to find more information about it. If you look for at 14 Project, I believe they have their Discord channel linked into their information on their Twitter. And you can jump in there yourself if you'd like to. That is the Saint 14 Project that talks about mental health and like how to handle it within different situations, whether or not you are somebody who's participates in having the aspects of mental health that happens to everybody. Because, you know, let's just be honest, mental health, depression, all the different things happen to everybody. They have aspects to help you with that, as well as helping you work through somebody else who may have to deal with mental health aspects. I know somebody that the person who mentioned to me in Twitter about the mental health aspect. I'm sorry, this is a hard thing to talk about for me. They were talking about their mother, and so they have aspects to help you with that as well. So if you need to reach out to somebody about anybody in your situation or anybody that you know that you're not sure how to handle about mental health, please reach out to Saint 14 Project. They're coming up with there's a stream coming up pretty soon, as well as they have a lot of people to be able to talk to about the whole situation. So that's my shout out for this week. Blue, what about you?
Just a big shout out for the next topic is going to be actually a break from Destiny. We're going to be doing the summary for the extra lore of March, which was over Monster Hunter. And that is the explanation for that schedule change is all up on the website. But basically, we're kind of trying to align so that we can still get podcast episodes out every week for everyone, with the increasing demands of reality, I guess it would be the easiest way to put that. Basically, real life sucks, and it gets in the way of
real
having
life
fun.
Happens.
Yeah, real life happens. It gets in the way of us having fun, but we still want to give you guys the episodes. You'll notice for me, these last couple of weeks, I haven't been able to get the game streams because of work schedule. There's just a lot going on. April is really going to be a tough month. March has been a really tough month, just in the business that I'm in, and that my wife is in. These are pretty much the crunch time months of the year. So free time is a high commodity that we don't have a lot of. So yeah, we're going to do a slight change there. So next topic is going to be, like I said, the summary for the extra lore. The polls are up, and that is not just for the next week's chat, or well, not next week, but the next Focus Fire chat, which will be a Destiny topic, but also for the next extra lore, as well as the next book club. The book club has been moved over to the website fully. If you guys, I think March's book was A Song of Ice and Fire. If you guys have any comments, that page is up. It will continue to be up. It's not being taken down. And then any of the previous book clubs, the nice thing about having those on the website is that they are going to be up permanently now. So if you have comments, if you want to go back and have a conversation about any of the books that we've covered, I think we've done, on the website, I think we've only done We Are Bob and A Song of Ice and Fire.
We've done about 10 different ones in Discord.
Right, yeah. We've done several in Discord, and actually the historical aspect is one of the biggest reasons we looked at moving it over to the website, because it just helps. Because like we did 1 month over Ready Player One, and that movie is out. The movie's out, right? It was out tonight or last night?
Thursday night it released, and it was out today.
Okay, so yeah, so I mean, that's still pretty relevant. And so going forward, we're going to have those available on the website. I'm trying to push as much content onto the website to allow for continuous conversations. If anyone, has a little bit of a rougher schedule that doesn't focus on those month or week resets. Other than that, nothing really big. We are continuing to work with building up the lore network that has kind of taken off. I'm really excited to see where that one's going. Big shout out to Green for all her help on that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's run through an outro real quick, and then we'll stay for a little bit of an after show, because I think there's a bit of an argument between our Warlock and Hunter going on that might need to get settled. So give us 1 second to run through the outro. With that, we'll begin to wrap the chat up. Thank you again to those over on Twitch for coming to spend your evening with us. If you'd like to join us for the live streaming of the episodes, please be sure to give us a follow over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. Links to all our other sites can also be found with our episode archives over on the new FocusFireChat.com. Please be sure to email us at focusfirechat@gmail.com with any questions or comments for our team concerning the podcast, and let us know how we're doing by giving us some feedback and a rating over on iTunes as well. Also, be sure to check out all of our amazing podcast partners within the Guardian Radio Network over on theguardiansofdestiny.com. So until next time, focus your fire and may your light shine bright.